Welcome to the Biz and Tech Podcast. My name is Blake Dowling. I'm the CEO of Aegis Business Technologies here in Tallahassee, Florida. Today, we are joined by a good friend, a wonderful business partner, Dana Noles, Vice President of Grow Business and Corporate Advancement of the Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Dana.
Hello. Welcome. Thank you, Blake. Glad to see you.
You're very welcome. It's nice to see you. And we are protected by this COVID glass screen today, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of COVID, the University of Florida was decimated with positive cases this week, potentially affecting this weekend's game. I know one player that probably has COVID-19, Kyle Pitts. Why, Dana?
Because he catches everything.
And for the record, we're not making light of COVID-19, but after 6 months, if you can't smile a little bit about it, what can you do? All right, well, here we are. For your IT tip of the day, don't click anything. To quote Fox Mulder, trust no one. If you are receiving emails from a bank or a shipping company and you don't do business with that entity, don't click on those emails. It's getting really out of hand. Ransomware is up 600% in the spring and summer, and those trends will continue. So look out, be careful, be the human firewall, and take care of your organization. For today's purposes, Dana and I first met 14 years ago, going on 15. I was a consultant for Aegis. At the time, I was hired to grow the business, rebrand the business, develop a sales pipeline, those sorts of fun things. And what were you doing? What were you doing back then for the chamber?
Right at the time, I was probably either a marketing assistant or might have just transitioned into coordinator of events, but very early on in my career at the chamber.
Yes, we grew up together. As we were discussing off camera, Pam Butler, the founder of Aegis at the time, was CEO. And she came into the office one Monday and said, guess what? I've sponsored Access Tallahassee. We were the first sponsor of Access Tallahassee. I was on the board. I got to introduce all the events. And Dana and I worked hand in hand together during those times. We'll get into that a little bit more later. But for the audience today, welcome to the podcast. Tell us what you're up to with the chamber, what your role is now, and what you guys are doing throughout the pandemic to keep your audience and members engaged.
Sure. Well, I have been at the chamber for a total of 18 years. So like I said, I started as actually a receptionist, and then they hired me as a marketing assistant, and I guess I'll tell you the rest is history. So really enjoyed working there. But the chamber is a 97-year-old organization. We're a nonprofit that's made up of business members, and we are really here to help the community grow, the business community and the community as a whole. So for me, in Grow Business, I focus a lot on what we push out to the members and to the community. So all of the events, all of the programming, I oversee our marketing and communications department. And then for the corporate advancement side, work with our Grow Biz committee to kind of keep a pulse of what's going on in the community, what initiatives, what projects, what we can do to help them. And I think, with COVID, we've just all adapted. So obviously, events and getting together and being connected are a big part of what the chamber does. And we've just had to adapt into a new format. So a lot of Zoom, everybody's in Zoom now, a lot of smaller things now that we can have face-to-face and masks and protective wear. And we are just trying to work through that and keep our businesses open and strong.
The recent event at the Turnbull Center with Mark Wilson from the Florida Chamber, talking about the economy and jobs. I wrote about that event in the Democrat, and they happened to use a picture of mine in another article about the event where I'm just sitting. It looks like I'm sitting alone in a room with a mask with Mark talking to the group. But I tell you what, when I got the invitation from Corey or you if you'd like to come out to the Turnbull Center that morning, I was like, well, yeah, I would like to dress up and do something. It was really fun, and the content was on point. And when you get into a routine as an executive in any profession, you kind of get a little desensitized to things. But I was so excited to hear what Mark had to say, and so excited to be out and about. It was great. So nice, fine job. Let's go back to Access Tallahassee because a bunch of things pop out. I remember during one of the events, it was at the comedy club, and I had introduced someone that night, and Gary Jordan invited me to be on his program, Usual Suspects. And he said, don't worry about it. It's going to be awesome. We've got like 3 hosts because I believe it's an hour show, or is it a half-hour show?
Hour.
I think it's an hour.
But he might have had multiple guests.
So we had a couple beers and he kept checking email and he's like, well, you can talk coherently for 5 minutes, can't you? In, classic Gary Jordan humor. I said, sure, I could do 5 minutes, but anything over that's going to be a stretch. And about an hour later, he's like, ooh, bad news, man. All the guests canceled. It's just me and you. You need to talk coherently for an hour. I was like, well, that's a very tall.
Here we go.
That's a very tall order. But I went out. We had a great show. We talked about every item under the sun, but mainly Access Tallahassee. And here was an under 40 group, which at the time, I know you can't tell from my gray hair, but I was under 40 once, ladies and gentlemen. But
weren't we all?
Indeed. But that event was great. Working with Gary was great. You coordinated most of those activities. And on the flip side, I remember my second chamber conference. It was in Jacksonville. And I saw this wonderful pool party that Target Print and Mail had put together. And I was like, wow, I'm going to make some Frisbees and give them away. Do you remember that at all?
So was this at Sawgrass? Or
yes.
Was this, okay,
So I made these little Frisbees that popped, and they came in this little pouch, and they said Aegis all over them. And I just started handing them out. Naive young me, I was still a consultant for Aegis at the time. And you and Stu and Sue and people just started coming out of the woodwork like, what are you doing? You can't, this is a sponsored opportunity. You can't just hand out stuff. I'm like, well, I've already handed out like 100. So ladies and gentlemen, beware the chamber police. Make sure your items are licensed, sponsored, and appropriately done. Don't just hand out things randomly. But in all
seriousness, you a sponsor now though? So
well, yes,
now you know.
You said if you want to become a sponsor, sign here and you can hand out ridiculous stuff. So I did. But tell me from your opinion, because it's such a great part of our year, what is that conference like for your crew getting together? I know it didn't happen this year, but getting together with, it's 500 attendees now, right?
Mm-hmm, a little over.
So what was it back 14, 15 years ago?
So when my first official conference was in 2005, and we were at the St. Augustine and the World Golf Village Resort. And so at that point, it was just a couple hundred people. It had been happening for several years. It started as a board retreat that morphed into people saying, hey, we want more. And we want to talk about things. We want to get together. We want to learn and we want to grow.
I didn't know that.
And yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
Going outside of the community gives them that opportunity to kind of really focus on what's going on. So it morphed into that. And it was, again, a couple hundred people when I first started. And now we are maxing out the locations that we're in with over 500. So in 2019, we were hovering right around 530, I think, for full participant registrations that are going to all of the programs. And then for some of the social functions where you can bring your spouses or guests, you're over 700. So it's grown a lot. And it's one of the greatest programs that we do. It's the largest thing that we do. It's all hands on deck for staff and all of our affiliate programs. So when you talk about Access, Leadership Tallahassee, world-class schools, we're all in it together to make it happen. And we try to touch all components of that when we create the content.
Well, it is the premier event in our region. And if any young people ask me, because unfortunately, as we talked about, I'm now an old person. So people do ask me sometimes, what should I do to break into the market in Tallahassee? I'm like, get involved with a not-for-profit. Go to the annual chamber conference. I mean, those are the top two. It's a great place to network. And where can you find 500 people in one spot to network with? And I'll tell you this, I did a rolling diary last year for the Tallahassee Democrat, which was a little crazy. When I accepted the gig, I didn't think writing an update every 4 hours would be difficult, but it was actually. Yeah. But it turned out great. And one of the points I wanted to make is every year there's some smart aleck, PG-13 today, a person who always says, well, I don't understand why everyone goes out of town and it's so ludicrous to spend those dollars in Jacksonville. Well, if you had it here, and I'm a firm believer in this point, if you had it here, no one would participate. Some people would be at breakfast and some people would be at dinner, and it wouldn't be the cohesive team. It wouldn't have that team feel, in my opinion. So I figured I would shout that out to anyone listening today and make sure to attend. Next year is going to be great. Having to skip this year, I got my reminder for SALT for Friday night the other day. I'm like, the place is so fantastic. Another fun point, something we've been engaged with, the Professional Women's Forum. We've got some great press out of that. Tell us the origin of that program. It's a wonderful place to network here in town and showcase some of our local leaders. What's that all about?
Absolutely. So Women's Forum has actually been going on since 1985. And you spoke about our hybrid version of the Mark Wilson event. We actually had a hybrid version of Women's Forum yesterday.
How'd it go?
So it was fantastic. So Lonnie Almeida, the head coach of the Florida State Seminole softball team, was our speaker. She did a great job talking about culture and team and relating what she does with her players to what you can do in your organizations. And so we had about 50, 60 people in the room. We did not have exhibit tables at this one. So this was our first entryway back. But
baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps. We hope to be back in December. But it was great. So we did the people in the room, and then we live streamed via Zoom. We had people asking questions online. And so you had the interaction, and it was just great to see people together. And like what you said, a lot of these individuals that came, all women that were in the room yesterday, even though it's not just women only, men can come to Women's Forum. And they just really enjoyed it and said, thank you for giving this opportunity. We missed the interaction. We missed seeing faces, even if it's just your eyes, and being able to sit around a table of 4 people and meet and have conversations is just really, I think everybody wants that. And so we're happy to be able to offer this as an opportunity.
Well, we love that event. Jeannie Dowling, our procurement director, and as you can tell by the last name, we're all related. She is my wife, and she's awesome. She modeled at one of the Professional Women's Forum, and that was fantastic. But my favorite press, and this is all Jeannie, Susie from Tri-Eagle, Susie Bush Transu, I believe they were the sponsor, and they had a bucket of beverages on each table. And
I always like to bring samples. It's such a fun time when they're sponsoring or speaking.
Absolutely. And for this particular event, and the beverages in question were beer, the Democrat captured Jeannie reaching for a cold Bud Light at a lunch event. And on the front page, Mrs. Dowling reaches for her beer for her lunch, which was so perfect. And we have that framed in the office. I absolutely love it. Another event that you all no longer do, but it produced an iconic photo for our company. Back in 2009, along with the Access sponsorship and my beginnings as a consultant for Aegis Business Technologies and working with you and Christian and the rest of your team back then on so many different things, Dave Hodges called me about an hour after the event, which was the
Small Business Awards.
There we go. I was struggling to get it out. But he's like, wow, you really made a scene at the event. I'm like, how so? He's like, well, you're the only one that accepted an award. You ran on stage and like hopped over something and did the Nixon picture. He's like, so I'm putting it on the front page. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome, Dave. And so that for me was awesome because a couple of days later, Dave and his team were like, how would you like to write for the Tallahassee Democrat? He's like, we have a void in the business and technology section. And however many years later, we'll call it a decade plus, I'm still writing for Martha and the Tallahassee Democrat team, and it's such a fun opportunity. But those press engagements, these sponsorship opportunities, it really shows the importance of the Tallahassee Chamber in our community. And when I walk into people's conference rooms and boardrooms, so many times they say, are you a chamber member? And they usually know that now because we've gotten our name and brand out there so many times. But it's a special relationship that we have. What's your favorite part of working at the Chamber?
I think what you just described, creating connections, being able to help people, it brings me joy. And so I like the fact that whether it's learning something through going to an event that you didn't know or creating that relationship or opening an opportunity to do something different, like write, showcase another skill, whatever that might be, that's how our community grows. That's how relationships are made. And it's just fun to watch. I love at conference when the energy that's there, or really at any event, annual breakfast meeting, Women's Forum, and the exhibits, there's just an energy that comes with people getting together and people growing. And that's why I'm still here 18 years later. It's never the same and it's challenging, but it's worth it. And this is a town I call home, born and raised. So I just like to see that happen with people. So,
well, congratulations for your successful run with the chamber. I know your leadership is a huge part of the success that you've all experienced. So congrats again on that. And as a sponsor, I think from a branding perspective, one of the coolest things is being able to create an item each year to put in the sponsor bag that goes to every attendee. Last year, we decided to co-brand something with Big Brothers Big Sisters, which we'd never done before. We thought it'd be cool to get the brand of the not-for-profit out there who might not have the dollars or the budget to be a sponsor. And it turned out great. Gary talked about it to the entire crowd. People ask me about it constantly. Mm-hmm. So speaking of the not-for-profits out there, you're involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters, are you not? Tell us about that.
Just very recently. So thank you. So one of the things I started last year in 2019 was being a mentee within Leon County Schools. And that program was actually run through Leon County Schools. With COVID, there cannot be volunteers within the school system, and happened to actually be on one of our chamber programs where Alva was there, and we had a conversation about becoming a big and what does that look like and what are they doing during COVID, and follow that up with information of how to train to be a big, and trying to match me back up with my mentee from Pineview Elementary, and doing that. So I just completed my training. Maria has emailed me some stuff, and we are on the path to seeing if I can reconnect or become a big to someone else. So that was a really fun thing for me last year to find. I really enjoyed meeting the student and helping them with their homework, or just being someone to listen and being a good role model. And I look forward to doing that in the future. So
awesome.
Excited.
Well, thank you for your service. We just finished our big talent showcase for the agency, giving the littles in the program an opportunity to show off their talents when they might not have the opportunity to hang out with their bigs like they normally did. Mm-hmm. A young man named River actually won the contest, and that was so much fun to put a talent show together and engage with these little people and young people in our community. Awesome stuff. So, last name, Noles.
Yes.
That just brings up, a lot of talking points. House divided, Bowden versus Spurrier, University of Florida. Wow. When were you there at Gator Nation headquarters? So
I graduated here in Tallahassee from Leon High School in 1998 and went on to the University of Florida at that time. I enjoyed some of the late 90s, early 2000s, which I think were great years. I enjoyed it so much. I can't say enough about my time. I've met some lifelong friends there. I rushed 80 Pi at UF. I know you were an ATO at UF.
Was.
So, and finding some lifelong friends and bridesmaids and everything else that come along with that. And coming back to Tallahassee. But yes, my last name is Noles. So we are a house divided. I say that it must be true love if I, have this last name for the rest of my life. We've been married almost 12 years. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So it's always a fun time, no matter what sport. So whether it's football, baseball, softball, our daughter was a softball player. So even that is a house divided for us. So
awesome. Well, house divided. It's a way of life. And in COVID-19 land, we were talking off camera about reclaiming parts of your house, whether it's outdoors on the patio. Jeannie and I last night, we were going to eat healthy and exercise. And instead it turned into hanging out on the patio, drinking IPA and watching the postponed pandemic influenced NFL game. But great time. So you're sitting on your newly developed patio. Mm-hmm. It's COVID-19 land. What are you and your house divided prepping and serving for yourself or your family? What's the ideal meal? What are you sipping on? Tell us about it.
Yeah. Pretty much anything you can grill. Like you, we built a deck in COVID. So we have spent lots of time out there now. So you name it, Sean will look it up and try to find something to grill. So we recently did some chicken. We did a prime rib recently that we'd never done. Our girl has a rotisserie. So we tested that out.
How'd it go?
So it worked out very well. So paired that with some grilled veggies and a nice Pinot, and we were good to go. But football time, it's probably
Grigio or Noir.
Oh, Noir. So a red. That's probably our favorite in regards to what you pair with a red meat. But
I'm a firm believer in going off the reservation with wine pairings. White wine, filet mignon.
Well, my father-in-law is a wine connoisseur. He has anything I've learned from him. And so I try to keep the matchings up together because you never know.
You never know when the wine snob is going to knock. What are you doing?
But that's a fun time. But in football season, I would say you're probably grilling chicken wings or chicken or burgers. And there's some ice cold frosty mugs, some beers and some football. So we have had lots of fun with the patio.
Yeah, same here. I mean, putting in an outdoor television and, I clean the grill regularly, and we've done wings, like you said, which I used to never do, but doing homemade wings on the grill is awesome. I did rack of lamb recently, which I'd never done. And then getting creative with the accompaniments, like I do a nice mango salsa.
Oh, nice.
Which is fancy, but a lot of fun.
I'll have to try the rack of lamb. Sean might get all over that.
Whole Foods will cut it for you, or you can do them like 4 at a time, and they are c'est magnifique.
Nice.
Yes, outstanding. Well, any closing thoughts today? Your involvement with the chamber, your work in the community. What can somebody do out there listening if they want to get involved with the Chamber of Commerce?
Join. Thank you for that softball. So feel free to visit our website, talchamber.com, and you can join that way. You can reach out to Corey Melton. She oversees our membership department, but we have many different options, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're in the private sector, in a for-profit business, but we are here to help you and help our community grow. So I have, just like you have with Aegis, I continue to see people growing up in our community like we have, and I'm excited to kind of talk just a little bit about and share. So,
well, I rarely say anything serious, but I will seriously say that working alongside you the past 14 years, helping the Chamber, helping Aegis put their message forward, helping me grow from a consultant to CEO has been an honor and a privilege. I respect you as a professional and as a friend and as a Gator, so thank you for everything over the years. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Well, thanks for having me, and go Gators.
Go Gators. So as we close today, if you are not a member of the Chamber of Commerce, check it out. All right. As I said, it's been a huge part of my journey, and I wouldn't be CEO of Aegis without it. So, Biz and Tech signing off today. Aegis Business Technologies. I'm Blake. This is Dana. We'll see you around. Have a great one.
See you later.